Great. Welcome, everybody. Today, it's my honor and big pleasure to welcome you to a new episode of the Making It Real podcast, the podcast for founders who take action. Today, the special founder is Robert Wetzker. Robert is the co-founder and CEO of Aklamio. Aklamio is a leading company in the word of mouth, customer recommendation, referral space. He can tell us the amazing services that Aklamio does for its client. Robert, so great to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Jan. Thanks for inviting me.
Wonderful. Robert, tell us your personal journey into the entrepreneurship space. What did you do first? What did you study? What was your first steps into the entrepreneurship space?
Well, I studied business engineering in Berlin and Italy. And then I spent even more time at the university doing my PhD, and it became very technical. I did my PhD in AI, big data analysis, a lot of statistics. And then basically research did go actually pretty well, but I always wanted to build things which are actually used by real people. And so I consider myself more an engineer than a researcher. And then, we founded the company directly after the PhD. So I never had a real job in my life.
From a researcher starting your own company is actually a bit unusual, especially let's say in the German space, because oftentimes then people they get stuck in the research world, and so they're in between. Mm-hmm. How did it come about? How did it come about that you felt, oh no, I can build a product? Do you have a specific idea in mind already, and you said, okay, we have the customers in hand?
Actually, we had a specific idea. Like my PhD was around recommendation algorithms. Basically, these are algorithms which, if you have, let's say, on a website that tell you, oh, or you could also buy these books, or you should watch this film, or whatever. So it was already about matching products to potential customers. And then actually we went from AI to HI to human intelligence by really becoming a referral marketing company. And the reason for that is that these algorithms, they had some limitations, and they, for example, it was really hard to reach people which were not on your website. Where if you do referral marketing, word of mouth, obviously the people on your website or your existing customer base, they can bring their friends which are not currently in your reach, and things like this. And so we had a look at the state of the art in the industry, like how is actually referral marketing done in Germany at that time, and it was very handmade, let's say like this. It was, you had to download PDF files and sign them, upload them, or bring them to a branch. It was really complicated, and the UI was really bad. It was never really a nice experience. And at the same time, we read statistics that actually word of mouth was contributing like every second sale in general in the economy. You could argue has to a certain degree been influenced by someone else. You read a review, you talk to your friends, to your colleagues, to your family. It's really one of the core drivers of economy. And it was a surprise that the solutions we looked at were really that low in quality. And so we decided to go into that direction.
Mm-hmm. Oftentimes when people have these ideas about referral solution, or that people should kind of post the things that they love and recommend it, just like when they think of it as a platform idea, right? To get users on some platform, then somehow activate them, encourage them to recommend, and then somehow figure out how most likely to affiliate marketing for people that know that to monetize it. Mm-hmm. You took a different route. You actually went to the customers and the companies to build services for them. How did this decision come about, and how did you take the first steps then to implement it, to code the product and all of that?
Well, actually, we started, as you described it, we started B2C. We wanted also to build a platform where users come and they see all the products and they can share them with their friends. And we always thought it would just be fair if they bring friends to buy something, they should get the same money that companies normally pay to Google, Facebook, and so on. So that was the core idea in the beginning. But then yeah, we looked at the solutions which actually companies were already using for referral marketing, and they were basically so bad that we thought, oh, there's a huge potential for us. And we considered us very much tech driven. Like with my background, also my co-founder Holger, he was in robotics before, so we are really tech founders. And so the idea moving towards B2B more and more came, and also we had requests from client, can't you do that for us? We don't have a refer a friend program or more like employee gets member or whatever. And so there was a demand coming towards us. And then we decided basically to go into the B2B direction, which was a very good decision. So now our core motivation is really to enable companies to engage with their existing customer base in order to grow, in order to get referred. Obviously, first step is really to have a really good product. But once you have that still, you should have a really good referral program as well, and to create the customer engagement, and also to make sure that the people that refer you are actually getting something for that. And so the aim is a bit also to reallocate the budgets you would normally spend on Facebook, Google, and basically that's where most of the budgets go to and stop, which these budgets, you should invest them into your customer base. Give your customers incentives instead of going towards these big guys. And because you will see it's a much higher return on investment than just increasing your search advertising budget or your social media budget.
Mm-hmm. How did you get in touch with the first customers then? Because that's a classical problem, especially in B2B, right? To where you don't have reference customers and you want to close the first deal. You come from the university, so some people say, oh, that's just some study project, and so they don't maybe initially take you too seriously as you work on closing the first deal, making the first building out, showing that the product actually works. How did you solve that?
Yeah, that was actually a real challenge, and we are not just doing B2B. We are doing enterprise B2B. So it's really the big guys you need to get to. You need to understand who is actually the person taking a decision. You need to get in contact. It's even more complicated. But we were talking also in the beginning, especially also to understand better the markets. We were talking to many people, also to, let's say, agencies in the department, to affiliate networks and all these people that have a similar client base and they understand the needs and so on. Also to build the product, we needed all the input we could get. And actually from these relationships, they knew, okay, we were building a solution, and at the same time they knew, oh, someone was looking for a solution. So they did the initial connect. And it was a win-win situation because also the agency, since we generate volume in terms of incentives, also the agency gets a share. So it was a very positive way of starting it. But still, it took, obviously, in the beginning, it takes quite some time because the main part in sales is really trust. Like people have to decide to commit to your solution, and that can be up to personal risk, because you have decided to buy that, and then you risk basically your job if it doesn't work. It's not always to that degree, but it can be. And so having trust, especially if you're a small company, is not that easy because you haven't shown it's working. But having someone helping you on the side in the beginning, before you have all the use cases, and now we are working for many huge companies where we have already shown that it's working. In the beginning, it's really helpful to have someone for helping you get the first customers.
Mm-hmm. Especially engineering founders don't like the sales area too much, right? And then when they hear now, oh, could be a great idea to work with agencies that have their clients, so have the agency sell for them. Does that work like that, or did you as well have to do the sales? It was more that they handed over the contact to you and then you were closing the sales. How do we have to imagine that?
Yeah, like we were, like the founding team were actually 3 technical guys. So sales was always something someone had to do for us in the beginning, and then we were really lucky that like 1 year once we did the development and then we went live, and around that time Marcus, our CSO, joined. So we had someone doing sales, and I personally also, one of my core topics in the beginning, especially, was to support Marcos in the sales process. It's really important because you need to understand the requirements on the other side. You need to be close to the clients. Like, I'm not telling you anything new, but it's really, especially for us, which we basically we had no clue about online marketing when we started the company. So, which was, this naivety was also an advantage, because it really, we just thought it should be like this. Why isn't anyone doing it? And we just went for it. And in this case, it was an advantage. But yeah, you really need to stay close and understand really to what you should build. We did also many things wrong, where we developed, like, being a tech team, we obviously did wrong that we spent too much time on development and too little time on talking to potential clients. But that led to certain features which in the end just were a waste of time. But also that's the learning. It's really important to understand whom you're selling to. And it's not only about the product, it's really also about, especially since we do enterprise sales, it's really also about to understanding the sales market fit. Because you really need to understand who is buying it, who's having the budget, who's taking the decision, what does the decision maker need, what does a budget owner need, and so on. So product market fit is only the first step, but it's really fitting towards the entire sales funnel.
I think you're such a wonderful example of coming from a researcher, very tech-focused area. And I think especially in Europe, we have many research institutions that think about, they want to have a big impact, they want to make it real. Oftentimes then they develop this perfect solution, they stay a lot in the product area. And I think it's so refreshing that you highlight, it needs to be as well the core engineering lead, the core person. If you want to be the CEO of the company, you need to go out to understand the target customers. And so oftentimes the other thinking is, well, we are not there yet, the product is not finished yet. Any advice when to start to contact the target customers?
Well, sometimes you should even contact them before even developing anything, any new feature, just to understand whether there is a demand for that feature or for that new additional product line. I think you should definitely talk to at least 10 potential clients before starting to invest into a new, really take a serious investment there. So in this regard, it's really important to be close to the clients.
Many people then say, well, why would they take me seriously? I don't know anybody there in that field specifically. What's the best way to reach out to people when you have nothing to show for yet?
When you have, well, you basically, you have something to show, which is the idea. You would basically propose like a solution, and then from that you would start communication. And also I really don't believe in, at least in enterprise, I don't think that an MVP approach is really solving your problem, because you really have to make sure that the person buying into you is not losing his or her face. It really needs to work at least at a certain level. It doesn't have to be perfect, but everyone should be aware it's really commitment by the company buying into your product. And only having an MVP, which is basically like, or a test version running, it's not good enough. You really, once you're live, it needs to work. That's a bit different than for some B2C products or whatever. In this case, in this regard, I think, an MVP may not be the right point. It needs really to go a bit beyond that, but not too much. Like, it doesn't have to be feature complete or anything, but what you sell needs to work well.
So like early on with some slide deck discussing the vision and so on, then involving them as you build the product, almost like a co-development, where they provide you regularly input and say to check versions if you're on track.
Especially in the beginning, like, and then the real challenge afterwards is really to not become an agency and just for every new client sit together and redefine the product. It's really to find a core product which works for everyone, with customizations, with features you can turn on and off and so on. But it's really important, at least if you want to become a tech company, not to do one version per client. And that's a challenge because you have to say no sometimes, but that's as important as saying yes. In the beginning, in the first year, you will say probably yes all the time because you have no choice. But after that, you should learn, or you should pivot a bit mentally and learn to say no as well.
Mm-hmm. How do you determine this feature set that is kind of the one that works for everybody? How many customers would you think do you need to determine kind of that common base that everybody needs, that you don't? Because many founders know they fall exactly into that trap, that they develop very custom, tailor-made solution, customized solution, and they do that over and over again, but they never get to really a scalable product. So how can they figure that out, especially people that focus on tech, on product?
Yeah, first you have to be clear what's your core value proposition. For us, it's growth. Like we help companies to grow, and by engaging with their existing customer base, it's growth, growth, growth. And then you have to see, okay, what are the pain points? How do I get there? It doesn't start with the product. It starts with the sales process. Which contracts do I need? Which people need to be in the sales process? Is there a legal topic? Is GDPR a topic, and so on? It starts there, and then it continues basically. And then you have to decide, okay, what are the core pain points? Is it, yeah, you have to, for us, for example, we need an infrastructure, we need to integrate into certain points with partner, and that should be the same for all partners. How can we find a solution which is the same? And for us, it was a really important decision also to decide, okay, we start in certain industries only because they are similar and they require a certain product. They have tech requirements which are similar, and the sales approach is similar. So also they're focusing on a certain vertical or certain verticals, certain countries in the beginning, so you don't have to translate immediately. It's really, really important. And then you try to find the smallest subset of what's solving the problem, basically. Mm-hmm. So there are always requirements, like we have to do certain things, otherwise the product doesn't work. Like we have to be able to fulfill incentives, to pay users if it's cash. That's obviously something we need to do. We need to be GDPR compliant and things like this. Otherwise, we don't have a product. But then you have to understand for the client what's making the decision much easier. For us, it was there shouldn't be any dev effort involved. It should really be we do everything, and then the partner basically has a product and just uses it, and so on. And that's something you have to think based on who is your customer and what limitations they have, what are their pain points. Mm-hmm.
If people feel like my strength is engineering, is building products, but I want to be in charge, I want to be the CEO. So no, we learned it's still important to go out there to interact with the target customers. Given the Aklamio situation, you brought in a salesperson rather early then as well. I think it was in the first year. Maybe for people, how do you find this strong salesperson that fits in the startup context? And how do you split the work between the role that you, as the product lead, as the CEO as well, take in the sales process, and a specialized salesperson that is experienced?
Well, it's a lot about, especially in the beginning, it's not only salesperson, but it's a lot about networking. Like actually, our CSO came from our business angel network. So it's especially since we came from the university and so on, we were not that well connected from the start, and we were not known to anyone. So it's really and the network really helps. So I can that's one of the most important things actually in the beginning. And how do we distinguish roles? Like in the beginning, I think as a CEO, you have to do sales together with someone. Maybe someone leading, but you have to be in the core sales parts, and with the core clients, you have to be in there. And the more over time, then you have to reflect as a CEO. I think, what is it you are really good at, and also what is it you want to do. You have the luxury of being able most of the times to hire for, let's say you don't want to do finance, you hire someone to do finance. You don't want to HR, you hire someone for HR. You should do that anyway. And so for me, I think it's actually very beneficial to have an engineering CEO as a tech company, because I think my role is also about a lot of creating an environment where you can innovate, where it's about innovation. And having an engineering background helps a lot there, especially since we are a tech company. The understanding is really important of the processes. Yeah, also the willingness to learn on the, yeah, from the technical side, and mapping it to the sales side, and then finding the best overall solution for the company. Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. So I really enjoy what I'm doing right now.
Oh, fantastic. And we can see that now very quickly if we see now the trajectory. No, you now, after you're some years in, are the market leader in the referral marketing solution with huge clients or so. But we see, we can imagine now you got the idea being at the research institute saying, hey, there is an opportunity, the solutions that are out there in the market are definitely underdeveloped, right? So being an engineer, being product focused, you start building the product through the network as well. Then you get a salesperson in the agency as well, help to close the first sale. So we see you running the first services, the first word of mouth campaigns, incentivized referral campaigns. How do you move from this stage of getting started with the first, what were like the core lessons learned? And now I think you're over 80 people, operating internationally. What were like in very brief terms, the core lessons learned in the process from taking this from these first sales to building this now really impactful, fast-growing company?
In the beginning, it was really like we already talked about. It was really about the first product was basically something which fit the first customer, and it was also nothing that could scale or anything. It was really it wasn't bad at all. It was working, but it was for the first company, really for one client. And then in the beginning, it was really about getting into making it scalable and having different clients. And then something we did actually wrong, in my opinion, is that after that, we basically sold to everyone who wanted to pay us. So someone coming and very different industries like retail. We had airlines that wanted to promote certain flight plans and stuff like this, and we had telecommunication providers and so on. So it was a very different set of requirements, of mentality, of budget allocation. Sales cycle was different. And that was actually seen from my perspective right now was wrong. We should have much more focused on certain verticals first and make the product working in these verticals. As we do it now, we really have a really strong focus, and then go into other verticals. So that's something I would really recommend. And really to think, what is your vertical? Where does it work best? Because you also learn faster. If you learn everywhere a bit, it's really hard to get it on the same learning curve. If you are really focused, it's much faster to learn. And I'm not saying it's not just learning, but the data creation itself. If you are a data-driven company and you get lost on too many tracks, the data won't, like I have a data background, the data won't tell you much because, but if you focus, you can build aggregates and you can see really how is your sales funnel, after how many months can I close a client, it gives you a much better picture. And you have to focus. We have been bootstrapped, so focus was obviously core. And then it was also for us a milestone really to go to other countries, and also we did errors there in hiring, or not being committed enough, maybe having a too small team in the beginning, like just trying, but then you basically waste a year because it's enterprise sales and finding out whether it's working or not. And so also there we did a lot of learnings. But right now it's going. We did the learnings and it's going really well. Like we are now earning more money in the UK than in Germany, for example, which is a really good thing for a MarTech company, because the UK being one of the most major markets worldwide, it's a really good sign, and we're pretty proud of that, to be honest.
So focusing maybe on that part, because it's a core area for many as well, especially people that want to have a big impact and want to think like international or even global as such. And you said there you made some mistakes in internationalizing, and so maybe not having the enough focus or critical mass per country. any advice for people? A core question now typically is, should we actually have a separate team in that target country, let's say, that we want to go to, or should we first start from our home office with international people? And which advice would you give founders in that regard?
Also in this regard, it's a lot about the focus. Once again, it's really, if you say, okay, I want to internationalize, it depends really on what business you do. Like sometimes it's different. For us, it makes a lot of sense to say, okay, I want to focus first on this country and really learn fast how it's going there. Or I want to focus on certain types of customers, let's say only one industry or only the top 5 in every market or things, but really focus and learn fast. And don't get too much done in parallel. And then, yeah, by country, that basically means if you start a country, also for data generation purpose, for learning, you should really be committed to a certain degree. It's not doing it a bit doesn't work in our industry. It's because you really need to understand, is the sales pitch working in that country? Is the funnel working? You need data to find that out. You can try a bit, like I also do that. I'm in the first calls if it makes sense, especially in new countries, and to understand, is there a difference in mentality in the pitch? Are there different requirements? I also do that. But apart from that, then it's really about focusing on certain markets and trying to learn as fast as possible. That's our perspective as a bootstrap company. If you have millions at your disposal, probably it makes much more sense to parallelize things. But then you also need people that have the attention, that basically have the focus for you on these parallel markets.
A common question there as well is, if you then have your focal market, let's say you are starting in Germany, then you want to go international next, maybe to a big market like the UK. What's the critical mass, kind of, when you said focus is important and to go in, as well as a founder to be committed, not to do the first sales, to understand the sales process then. So a core question typically is, should we start with one sales representatives or country manager first, or is the minimum rather like 2 to have this small little team going on? Any experience, any lessons learned there?
Well, especially in sales, I would highly discourage everyone from only having one person per country. It's really about, it's not only about creating competition but it's also about learning faster, because if you hire someone, B2B enterprise sales, it's 6 to 12 month sales cycle. If you hire the wrong person, you will know after you have lost basically half a year. Maybe you can find it out earlier on, but it will take time. So having more people in parallel, you learn faster and you find out which approach is working, which not. Maybe you hire even complementary and so on. So I would highly encourage to wait until you have that chance. Or if you want to go there, I also did from Germany, and our CSO is also reaching out to companies in markets where we are not really on the ground yet. We are doing that, but only for the top customers, just to learn is there a need and so on. So then I would still say do it without a team. As addition, or say, okay, you have a UK team, you want to go to the US, let your UK team do the first calls with US customers in order to understand whether there is real demand or there is a different requirements for a different pitch or different product, and understand that first, because you really invest before you really invest into going to the US, for example. But that would be my core advice, and it's also about, for the sales guys, it's also about having a team a bit, someone to spare the ideas with. If you're there all alone, it depends a bit on the character, but in general, I would say that's not beneficial. It's really, you want to share when you did a deal with as many people as possible, and you want to battle each other. Oh, I have an interview with this guy, and I have an interview with this guy, and so on. So it's really important, especially in the sales department, to have teams and to share your experiences.
One frequent thing there as well is country manager or sales person, the first salesperson in the countries comes back and says, this market is very different here. Everything works very different. We cannot really do that. We have all this product needs and so, and you as a founder, you're scared. You don't know on one side, then your product pipeline is full. What do you do in that situation?
No, that's exactly the reason you should hire more than one sales guy. That's exactly the point. Because that could happen. And then if it happens to, let's say you hire 3 sales guys and no one brings any contract, you should really start thinking with one sales guy. You always think, is it really my product? Is it the sales guy? So that's what I mean with data generation. You need to get data points as fast as possible where you can take a decision from. With one sales guy, it may not be enough. Maybe the sales guy is just not the right personality. Maybe being too old, too young, whatever. Not technical enough, too technical.
Wrong
whatever.
accent as well at times. We have that internationally as well.
Yeah. Also, maybe you need really a native speaker in certain markets. In Europe, it's unfortunately still the case that if you come with English only, you don't get many things sold. Yeah, also this is really important. And it's also not only how a salesperson behaves towards clients, it's also internally, does he get things done if he needs whatever, a presentation or pitch or product change or whatever, how does he get that done internally? There is a team helping him, but in general, it's also towards the company, like how good are they in managing these requirements if they need them.
Mm-hmm. Robert, you have run a lot of referral companies, incentivized referral companies for many big clients in international markets. For people that looking into that, we learned from the book From Zero to Rum by Peter Thiel that incentivized referrals for PayPal, for example, were one of the most important growth channels. Now we know you've seen that you've done the two-sided incentivized, you have single-sided incentivized, so where only maybe the recommender gets an incentive. You even had it where the commission was donated to foundations, so where people could get the monetary value that was generated through recommendation was donated. What would you say as the CEO of the market leader in the referral solutions are core lessons learned for founders that want to consider referral and incentivized referral solutions?
Well, my first comment would really be to consider it something which is a core marketing channel, but something really stable. So once you have a solution, you should expect that solution if you're good, depending a bit on the industry, on the product. But if it doesn't bring you 5 to 10% uplift on your monthly contracts, then probably something is wrong. Then probably you should call us or investigate. And it's not a campaign tool, referral marketing. You should really, you can, of course, you can do campaigns, but only once you have a robust fit a setting where all your customers can actually engage. If they want to make word of mouth for you, they should know how to do it, and so on. And so you should have a stable setup. And then, yeah, there are a lot of parameters you can optimize. You can. It's starting with how do you incentivize it? What's a fair incentive? What's maybe even a very interesting incentive? Who gets what? As you mentioned, is the referrer getting everything? Is the follower, we call the person following the referral follower, or the recommendee? Is the friend getting everything? Or is it somewhere in between? We always recommend to start with a split in the beginning because we think it's fair. You get something for referring, but you should also bring something to your friend. And we also allow to make that a choice for the referrer, and it's pretty interesting to see who keeps the money. And
what happens if it's a choice for the follower? No, let's say the one that gets the recommendation.
It once again depends on the incentive, and it depends a bit on the country, I have to say as well.
Interesting. Okay.
About 60-70% of the people would keep the money, and then it would go, let's say 20-20 to I want to split it and I want to gift it to the friend. I want to go 100% go to the friend. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very sociological research topic. Yeah, I
hear as well. So it seems like the size of the incentive is one of the core drivers how successful referral marketing campaigns are. So if you can pay out higher incentives, that should work better. What's like the other core 2-3 issues to watch out for if you want to have a successful referral campaign or program?
Yeah, the amount of incentive is a core driver to a certain point. If it's like beyond a certain point, it doesn't increase that much anymore. So also there, we allow our partners to test it basically. Like, what is the best incentives, and after what point doesn't it improve anything at all? And what else you have to? It's a lot about how you actually integrate referral marketing into the entire customer life cycle. Like at what point in the journey should you ask for a referral? There are actually it's actually a quite complex thing, because the customer life cycle for huge companies can be pretty challenging, and then you have to measure where do they refer, what do they refer at a certain stage. And obviously it's always a good thing to ask for a referral once someone had a very good experience with your, can be even customer support. They had a problem but it got fixed fast, and then ask for a referral. It can be also directly after they purchase, because they're really proud. Oh, I purchased a new product. Now I want to refer. And that's something you need to find out. That's one of the other core challenges. And then it's also about a bit for many of the companies we work with, it's about getting it omnichannel. They really struggle if they say, okay, I want a referral program online, okay, but I normally they operate omnichannel, having their shops, having their call centers, and so on. And that's also one of the challenges you have to solve. Like, how can I roll out these programs omnichannel? How can I really reach every customer? And then also, but that's more a client challenge, is really about getting rid of their silos of like very often the CRM team is about retention, keeping the customers, and then the sales team is about getting new customers. But referral marketing is in between. You want your existing customers to bring new customers, so they have to talk, they have to be aligned on KPIs and so on. So it's also an organizational topic for these large corporates we are working with, and there are still many corporates that haven't solved that. That still think in these dimensions, but we think that's something that will need to be solved anyway, not only for us, but to survive in a digital world, basically.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Yeah, I can see this topic as well increasing in importance, as now we have really this strong dependence on the Facebook, Instagram network, the Googles of this world. So people out there in business, they really look for alternative channels to acquire customers, to use their customer base. And so for Aklamio, what's next for the company? What are your next steps?
Yeah, we are now about 100 people. We are leading in referral marketing in Europe. For us, one next step is we want to, depending a bit on the current situation, but we want to get feet on the ground as soon as possible in the US. We also we are not doing only, like, we are going towards a multi-product strategy, because referral marketing, if you think about it, it's only one part of the customer life cycle. Actually, it's always in all the models, it's the last part. You have the customer journey, and then in the end you ask for a referral. But the companies we work with, it's about connecting to customers in general, and referral being only one product. It's about getting instead of using your budgets on Facebook and Google, and really using the same budgets for getting better promotions, better offers towards your users. So we also provide, for example, cashback as a service, where you can say, okay, everyone who joins me this month gets a certain amount of cashback. Or we provide other options, like bundling with 1 year of a voucher for some service, for some content service, or just stay with us, and every month we plant 5 trees. Whatever you want to do as a company, but we really think there is a huge demand for these type of direct to customer marketing solutions, because there's always right now a third party involved. There's always these big advertising companies, Google, Facebook, but also others involved in these relationships. We think brands should directly get the engagement from their customers.
Mm-hmm. So super exciting as well to see what you can do with your customer base. There's different ways to interact, to upsell, to bundle as well. So and interesting to see the journey there. Final question for you personally, having created this company, having it brought from 0 employees to now 100, going international, being a tech founder with this very strong PhD in artificial intelligence, machine learning approach, what would you say as core tips, core advice for people out there listening to this that thinking about making it real?
Well, I would say just in the beginning, especially just try it. Get up and try it. If there is no, normally the investment is really, it's mainly time you invest, and the time is pretty well invested because you will learn a lot of things. You will work hard, otherwise you won't succeed. But you will never learn as much as when you found a new company and you have to think about what is the product, what's the client actually, starting actually from the client, what's the product, and so on. So it's really one of the most challenging things you can do, especially, and also I think if you're an engineer or something, you can always find a job right now. As the risk of try it for 1 year and then go back into a normal job if you found that it's not what you want to do. Because also mentality wise, obviously for some people it's not the right thing, because you as a founder, you have to be always beyond what you're comfortable with. You always have to be, and that's a certain mindset. So actually you're never really, you're always stretched, because it's never really what you're already good at, because you always want to do the next thing. So it's a certain mindset which you need to have, I think. Also in leadership, obviously requires certain skills. Also there, you want to lead 100 people. Also, that's a question you have to ask yourself. And you can still decide, like you can found a company and you can say, okay, I really like the early stage phase, and then I will fade out after a while. I mean, there are examples also for that, and I will try to find an excellent CEO for the growth stage. There are a lot of opportunities, but you shouldn't regret in the end that you didn't found a company, I think. And there are so many, like also with all the things going on with the pandemic, with the environmental topic, there are so many opportunities right now. If you don't find a topic which is interesting, that's really weird, because the world is really about to change for various reasons. Like there's so much disruption to be expected. And that's only the obvious things. Also in fintech, in basically in every area, and there are so many topics which are still in the beginning. Like it's a beautiful moment for creating a company, not for other things, but for creating a company. I think it's a perfect time.
Wonderful. Robert, thanks so much for sharing all these wonderful insights, this inspiration. All the best for you personally and for Aklamio going forward.
Thanks for having me.